Our next speaker is Professor Marashlian. So Dr. Marashlian is Professor of History at Glendale Community College, where he teaches the Armenian diaspora and other courses in Armenian, Middle Eastern, Russian, and American history and politics. He was a Fulbright Scholar in Armenia in 1994. He delivered a paper on the Armenian question in Ankara in 1990, testified before the House International Relations Committee in 1996, and participated in the First World Armenian Congress in Paris in 1979. His publications include The Armenian Question and Turkish-Armenian Relations, published in Turkish in 2000, and Politics and Demography, Armenian Turks and Kurds in the Ottoman Empire in 1991, and numerous articles. He holds a PhD and an MA from UCLA and a BA from the University of Illinois. He will present us today the necessity and difficulty of establishing a diaspora congress. Please, Professor Marashlian.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank the organizers for organizing this timely, important meeting for a very important topic. My perspective is from, as someone who, as we just heard, participated in the 1979 Congress of First World Congress of Armenians, organized by Reverend James Carnuzia. He wrote a book called and on the cover he had a beautiful picture of Armenians from all over the world going toward the Armenian plateau. Obviously at that time there was no independent Armenia, and his goal, his purpose, would be compatible with everything we've heard so far in terms of the bigger goal. The issue, the goal of organizing Armenians in the diaspora, most of whom are Western Armenians, and in terms of terminology, the concept of Western Armenian and diaspora is not incompatible. Western Armenia is under the rubric, under the definition of diaspora. The terminology can be harmonized. That's a good word. Other congresses were held after the one in Paris, significantly in Lausanne and Sèvres, which are significant because the Treaty of Sèvres and Treaty of Lausanne. So the goal was clear, again, compatible with what the speakers here agree with, and with how the Marashlian agrees with. The ultimate goal for any kind of world body has to be some kind of material justice, which can be defined in terms of territorial adjustment of the Armenian-Turkish current border, or monetary compensation. Property, land, or money, one or the other, or all through ingenious, unique, unprecedented methods that do exist. That's the goal. The question is how to get there. All Armenians that I've talked to say the goal is good. At the same time, almost all of them say it's impossible. Chilvalik pane is a common response. Chilvalik pane, something that can't be done. Maybe, but it should be done. In 1980, I wrote an article about this concept. 1996, another one. My approach was to have some kind of body that, and it wasn't just my approach, it was the approach of others also, to have some kind of body based on democracy, one man, one vote, in order to attract the roughly 90% of Armenians who are not members of political parties or organizations. The existing parties and organizations do a lot of good work. They also do a lot of mistakes, but they have attracted a small percentage. That's not unusual. There has to be, we have to find a way to attract that 90% or a portion of the 90%. And one way to do that is to have some kind of election, voting, without an ideological requirement, with no ideological precondition other than the ultimate goal, non-partisan in terms of this party or that party or capitalist or Marxist, a commitment only to the ultimate goal of getting material justice for Western Armenia. And material justice for Western Armenia, for Western Armenians, is directly related to today's Armenia. Because without that material justice, in my opinion, today's Armenia has no future. It is just too poor, too small, landlocked. I doubt, I hope I'm wrong, I doubt if they can continue existing as an independent state if it goes like this. For demographic reasons, for resource reasons, and on and on and on. Armenia needs what Western Armenians want. What Western Armenians want is essential for the survival of today's Armenia. And what Western Armenians want cannot be achieved, in my opinion, without the participation of Armenia. No matter what the diaspora organizes, no matter what Western Armenians organize, the world, obviously we all know this, respects governments more. They will listen to a government before they listen to a group, no matter how well organized it is. So the government has to accept this, give its blessing, whatever you want to call it, harmonization. I like that word, harmonization. The reason why elections, I think, will be useful is not because every one of those 90% of Armenians will vote. Even if a small percentage votes, this body would have the, whether you want to call it legitimacy or credibility. This body can say that we speak, when it comes to reparations or whatever, that this body speaks for the Armenian people living outside Armenia. And it's true there are Western Armenians living inside Armenia, but I don't think they'll mind if several million outside Armenia are speaking in their name, because they have a voice too. They have a government. Western Armenians inside Armenia have a voice. It's called the Armenian government. It's up to them to push their Armenian government to work for the same goal of getting justice for what happened to Western Armenians, because it's essential for them also. And right now, the Armenian government, I'm afraid, doesn't understand this. There's some encouraging signs now, but the signing of the Armenian-Turkish protocols indicates that the leadership doesn't share this ultimate goal. Now, it looks like there's some positive movement, and we'll see what happens with that. The existing organizations have only attracted, as I said, a small percentage. Without the agreement or participation of members of existing organizations, I don't think something like this can work. I'll tell you why. With all their faults, the existing parties or organizations they're responsible for the existence of an organized diaspora. Again, with all their faults, we all know their faults. But without the existing organizations, this hall would not exist. Without political parties, demonstrations every April would not have taken place. And despite the fact that the existing organizations did not do enough for the material justice, what they did in terms of recognizing the genocide is related to it. April 24 is not to get Armenians to talk among themselves. That was before 1965, Armenians would talk among themselves, not after 1965. By pushing recognition, it makes the historical issue, the compensation issue, it makes it a current event issue. Consequently, they're compatible, they're essential. But it's true that we, collectively, in the diaspora, Western Armenians have not done enough for the actual material justice. It's essential for existing organizations to be part of it because they have somehow gathered, out of 100% of Armenians outside, they have gathered the ones with all their faults. They have gathered the ones who have the spirit. Among the 90%, most of them don't care. They don't care. Most of them don't, even if every political party was perfect, even if every organization were perfect, out of 90%, still, most of them would not participate. Most of them use the failures, the weaknesses of these organizations as an excuse to cover up their indifference, as an excuse to cover up that they're not patriots. They don't give a damn about things Armenian. And to cover that up, they say, Asok aspesin, anok aspesin, shemiyanar kanigor ilgili asok alaganen, asok alaganen. That's an excuse for a lot of them. So if there are elections, if there's some democratic body, most of them would not even do, I think, you said that even in France they're having a problem people registering, they don't want to even register. I'm not surprised. That's true. In America, I don't know Canada, in America, for president, every 4 years, only about 50% of eligible voters vote. So I'm not surprised at that. But even if a small percentage votes, that organization can still claim credibility and legitimacy because it's open to everybody. You can vote with the minimum requirement. If the majority don't vote, that doesn't matter, you can still claim legitimacy, whereas existing political parties can't claim legitimacy because to join a political party, you have to swear an oath, you have to adhere to a certain ideology. So no political party, no organization can claim that legitimacy. But if it's one man, one vote, then I think that legitimacy or credibility can be achieved. The three scenarios we just heard somehow have to be combined. They're not mutually exclusive. No matter what formula we seek, there are difficulties. Languages, logistics, geography. Very difficult to overcome those problems. Opposition from existing organizations. They say the idea is good, but they don't want to be part of it because everybody wants to be chief, nobody wants to be the Indian. That's natural. But somehow their participation has to be achieved somehow because they have, with all their faults, they have the spirit, they have the patriotism, and they have the money. They have millions and millions when you add up all the wealth owned by political parties, organizations. Look at the wealth they have. Where somebody formed called Western Armenians or called Armenian Diaspora, whether Harus Sasunyans or whether my ideas or his ideas, zero money, zero real estate owned, zero churches owned. We talk about critical mass. Ownership of real estate, ownership of money helps to get critical mass. So why organize something out of thin air when there are buildings, concrete, schools, churches owned by Armenians? They can't be shut aside. And there is a way to persuade them because through a democratic organization, those organizations, I think, can be convinced that they, democratically, that each one compete. They will not only help further their cause, because they also believe in justice for Western Armenians, the traditional organization, they believe in that. Through participation in democratic forum, their members, they can encourage their members to join their organization. Let them compete. They might even get more members. Or their members might go to something else. But somehow, it's very difficult. The formula has to be found. Differences, another difficulty, differences. Look what we have here today. Several speakers who all share the same long-term goal of material justice, and you can see here there are differences between what I say, between what the gentleman said, between what we saw on the screen. Even among us there are differences. Right, which is natural. How do you overcome that when you organize it across borders, across language barriers? Very difficult, maybe impossible, but it has to be done. It's essential. It seems to be a contradiction. It's essential, it's necessary, but maybe impossible. Some other formula has to be found, and I want to emphasize one more time. Even among Armenians in the diaspora, increasingly, more and more don't seem to believe in the necessity of a material justice. I remember many years ago when I was teaching, it would be almost impossible to find someone who would say that that only an apology from Turkey is enough. Now, as the years go by, I hear more and more Armenians saying an apology would be enough, and the goal of some kind of territory or money, the time has passed, it's impossible, we shouldn't ask for that. In fact, asking for something like that is hurting today's Armenia. 20 or 30 years ago, no one even would whisper that out loud. They thought about it. About 20 years ago, they began to whisper it. About 5 years ago, I was invited to participate in Pasadena, California, in a small church of a conservative group of Armenians, to be a speaker with two other people. One of the speakers said openly, that monetary compensation, territory, is something Armenians should not ask for. It is impossible. The only thing Armenians should ask for is, on an individual basis, if any Armenian has a deed for a house he owned in Van, let him go after that. But as a nation, he said openly, we should not ask for that. He said that in front of about 80 people. The only good thing I saw was, out of 80 people, about 70 of them were shocked. They were shaking their heads. That was about 5-7 years ago. In that room, he was a minority. But just the fact that he said it openly, people shook their heads, but he wasn't booed. In my opinion, he should have been booed. He wasn't booed. He was sat there politely, if that person said that 20 years earlier, somebody would have thrown a piece of paper or something at him or walked out. What's happening in the diaspora and in Armenia, a toleration is being created for defeatism. And it's reflected in the Armenian-Turkish protocols. What a stupid, defeatist, dangerous document that the Armenian government hopefully now maybe is understanding how dangerous it was. And we all know about the ultimate insult. There's an ultimate insult that just Turkey committed just recently. I'm sure a lot of you know. When Prime Minister Erdogan went to Moscow, what date was chosen for the summit between the Turkish Prime Minister and the Russian President? The anniversary of 1921 March Treaty of Moscow. And Erdogan gave as a present an original copy of the treaty as a present to the Russian president. Why was that date chosen? I feel that Turkey is worried. We know why they did that, to show that, see, we have this treaty, which the Turkish Armenian protocols encompasses that treaty. We have that treaty. But just the fact that Turkey wanted that date chosen because he gave a present indicates that they're worried, because if that treaty did not have a problem, if Armenians have no possibility, it's a dead issue, why pick that day? Why make a show of it? You make a show of something when you have to do it because you're concerned about something. Turkey is concerned. And Turkey would not want the diaspora to organize in something like this. That's why it's essential but difficult, and I hope someday we can do it. Thank you.